Hey babies, I want to talk about a really crucial distinction in this video, and that is the distinction between boundaries and rules. This is super crucial because one of the most important things in relationships is to have an experience of your partner respecting your boundaries, of your boundaries being important to your partner. When we confuse rules and boundaries, we may have an experience that our boundaries aren't important to a partner, when in fact our partner simply is honoring their own boundaries by saying no to a rule. Here's what a boundary is. A boundary is what I show up for and how I show up. A rule is any request that I make from the external world to provide me with an experience that is within my boundaries to show up for. So a rule can provide safety for me to show up in accordance with my boundaries. A rule can provide safety for me to show up in the way that I would love to show up when I feel safe. But a rule is not a boundary. A rule is a request. And this is the true hallmark of a request. Here's how you know. I'm going to do another video about this, but here's how you know if you're making a request or a demand. Is the other person allowed to say no? Pretty confronting. Falls apart really fast. Because oftentimes, especially in ethical non-monogamy practices, we want to set rules for our partners, and if our partners say no to that, we say they're violating our boundaries. But in fact, that partner is respecting and honoring their own boundaries by saying no to our rule, and our rule should always be a request, not a demand. So this is super, super important. Now, for an example, one of my boundaries is safety. I need to feel safe. I need to feel safe to show up. I need to feel safe to show up how I want to show up. Okay? So, in the pursuit of creating safety for myself to show up and show up how I want to show up, I may ask my partner for some rules. I may say, I want you to use protection with other people. Now, my partner could say yes, and my partner could say no. But yes and no to that request, to that rule, has nothing to do with my boundaries. My boundaries exist outside of this request and outside of this rule. So if my partner said, no, I won't use protection with other people, I would say, awesome, I have a boundary of my safety, so you and I need to use protection all the time then. Right? So my boundary of my safety, of my personal safety, always takes precedence. It can always be met, and a rule is a way that I can actually bring a partner closer or have to keep them farther away depending on my boundaries. The rules can allow me to bring people in closer. They can give me the safety to bring people in even closer. But the rule not being agreed to does not ever violate my boundaries. So a rule that someone agrees to, if that rule is broken, it may break a boundary, but it still might not break a boundary. So in the case of protection, if I had a partner say, yes, I'll use protection with everyone else, and then they didn't use protection with someone other than me, my boundary is not necessarily broken, because if they tell me, they're not exposing me to the risk. So my safety, the true boundary, remains intact even though the rule was broken. And this also helps our partners to not cross our boundaries if we can acknowledge the difference between a boundary and a rule. The partner can come to us and say, hey, I broke a rule, but I know that your boundary is behind this rule, and I would still like to respect your boundary. It's a really, really, really beautiful and very important thing for open relating. If you have any questions about rules and boundaries or ethical non-monogamy in general, I would love to get on a call with you. Let's talk about it.